the order. We'll do a roll call if we start from my left and just kind of swing around to the right.
Mark Olson.
Don Fuller.
Bill Vanticastle.
Bill Galvin.
All right. We have, next on the agenda would be approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 3, approval of the minutes of the May 25th, 2016 meeting. You all have a copy of that. As Dawn related earlier, it's very short. Any additions or corrections? Otherwise, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, we will now move on to item number 4 and call the matter of the complaint of Debbie Jakes against Chris Weary. You've all received copies of those documents. Can I have the appearances, please?
Rick Nell and Amanda Tunin from Nell and Associates on behalf of Debbie Jakes.
And Alderman Weary, I think you could probably come up here and take a seat so you're up at the front. All right. All right. As we get started here, let me just ask we've got a couple of procedural things to take care of. First, let me ask, more so here for our committee, does anyone believe that they have a conflict of interest in regard to this matter?
No.
No? No. Has anyone on the commission received any communications about this matter from any of the parties or their representatives other than the communications that we may have received from the city clerk's office?
No.
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 No. All right. Very good. Then are we ready to proceed?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Mr. Weary?
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that this be held in closed session.
Okay. I would ask the city attorney just for a review of where that is at this point and how we proceed.
Yes, sir. Under the ordinance, the hearing will be held in public unless a private hearing is requested by the accused, and that is pursuant to Ethics Code Section 1.908B.
Okay.
The request is not being made by the council or by the committee, and so it is something that is done specifically by the accused. So there is no basis for you to put a closed session notification on the agenda ahead of time. Because there was no, you did not have notice ahead of time that a closed session would be required, it can still go into closed session under the Attorney General's guidance.
Okay. And does that require a motion from us to do that?
It does.
Okay. Any other questions from any of the committee members? Right.
I'll make that motion to go into closed session.
Okay. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, motion carries. So the hearing will be closed. And let me just state for those who are here outside of the witnesses that, and the parties, that the hearing or testimony part will go into closed session as requested, and then we will go back into open session after that is closed, and then we have a second item which is on the agenda for the board to determine whether it's, or the committee to determine whether its deliberations will be an open session or closed session. So that after the testimony closes, we will go back into open session and then proceed at that point with the rest of the agenda, which would be deliberations and the process. And just for the record as well, the established process will be, each side will be given 30 minutes to present their position to the committee. And then at the close of that, each side will get 10 minutes to present essentially a closing a statement or position to the board on their own, and then we will, at that point, again, go back into open session and go to deliberations. All right, so at this point then, we have 5 after 6, and we will be going into closed session. So anyone who is not a party or a witness, we would ask you to please step outside.
Matt, I have Amanda Tunin, our paralegal. Is that okay if she stays? She's not. Oh, my God, Amanda's a lawyer now.
I was going to correct you on that one, but
Oh, well, 10 years as a paralegal, it's killing me. But Jolene Unito is my paralegal. Is that okay if she stays?
I have.
She's not a witness or anything like that. She's
I have
just
no-
our new
That's-
litigation.
that's-
Chris?
Okay, thanks.
Does Chris have an issue?
Or we can ask him to stay.
I don't know. I mean,
He's gonna be voting potentially on this. Is that a conflict?
That's fine.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. And is the tape running?
Yes.
All right, we're back on the record. It's slightly after 7 PM. The next item on our agenda is the deliberation portion of the hearing, and I would note for the record that we concluded both the testimony and the closing statements from the parties at about 10 minutes to 7, or 5 minutes to 7, and then took a recess. We are now about to go to the deliberations portion. Before we get to that, I do have a question that just occurred to me. Ms. Chavez, in the Code of Ethics, my understanding is that as part of the deliberations, we're going to be required to adopt a motion of some sort finding either that a violation has occurred or that a violation has not occurred, correct?
So the complaint was actually submitted under the Code of Ethics, sections 1.9, 1, 2, and 3. And under the Code of Ethics, what you are doing is looking for probable cause that a violation exists. So you will be making a motion to, essentially you'll be saying that probable cause does or doesn't exist.
Okay, and that's sort of the lead into my next question, and that is under Section 8, subparagraph E. I'll let you jump to that real quick. And this is the Code of Ethics.
Yes.
All right, it says that a 4/5 vote of the entire membership of the board shall be required to make a finding of probable cause.
Yes.
So we're one member short tonight, so the entire board is 5 members. Does that require that our vote tonight be unanimous?
It does.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is deliberations and actions on ethics complaint against Chris Weary under the City Code of Ethics, Section 1.09, Sections 1, 2, and 3. And then there is the opportunity for the board to consider whether or not to go into closed session. And I understand you have a recommendation for us in that regard.
Yes, sir. So because the meeting, or the hearing itself was closed, deliberating in public would completely undermine that purpose. If you are just discussing the evidence that was presented during open session, it basically should have been held in open session. And since it needed to be closed, it should also be deliberated during closed session.
So, the process to go into closed session then would be for a motion, and I will read prior to that motion the statement required to go into closed session, and that is as follows. The board may convene in closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, sub 1, sub A of the Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating concerning a case which was the subject of any judicial or quasi-judicial trial or hearing before that governmental body. The board may therefore reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.85, sub 2 of Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda. So, is there a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to section 19.85, sub 1, sub 8?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will be adjourning to closed session for purposes of deliberation. We will then return to open session to render our decision at the close of deliberation. Thank you all for your patience as well. Back into open session. Any further discussion? No further discussion? All in favor of returning to open session, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there anybody out there?
Yeah, I think so. I would just go.
Let's
No, let's get the parties in.
You are. Oh, thank you. Thank you for all showing up. We're done.
I think they're in the room till left, I don't know if Gary's here.
One of the things that Alderman did admit, he did admit that he admits the company policy was broken and he was removed for it, so I don't know if that's one thing that we wanted to read into the record. And
Yeah,
he did
he
take,
does. He does admit that.
I mean, under his rebuttal, he did say
Because he
that.
thinks he's got the Alpha, so I didn't take it. That's right.
I guess I'm just, that I don't have to walk so far. Oh, hey, at my age, I gotta consider, my Fitbit batteries are dead.
All right, we are back on the record, having completed our deliberations. And bear with us a bit, because it's the first time we've done this, so we're kind of walking through this ourselves. So we've had discussions in closed session. Is there a motion to be made?
Make a motion that, based on our conclusions that probable cause exists, that Alderman Weary violated the Code of Ethics.
And just as part of that, I'm to read the, okay, so in our deliberations, we came up with a set of findings of fact and some conclusions reaching that motion, or behind that motion. The first is that, based on the evidence that was presented here this evening, that at some point in March of 2016, Alderman Weary, through his employment, accessed personal account information and personal information of Ms. Jakes and her daughter at Associated Bank. Ms. Jakes has filed, as a result of that, an ethics complaint alleging a violation of various sections of Section 1.90 of the city's Code of Ethics. That complaint, in its format, as presented to this committee, in our opinion, gives the committee the authority to consider this matter, and that our conclusions based on the evidence presented and our authority under the Code of Ethics is that under the provisions of Section 190, sub 1, again, quoting from those sections, the public officials are responsible to the public, and that the public have confidence in the integrity of its government. And the purpose, find my place here, excuse me. The purpose of the Code of Ethics as provided under Section 1.90 is to establish guidelines for the ethical standards of conduct for all officials and employees by setting forth those acts or actions which are compatible with the best interests of the city. Secondly, under subsection 2 of section 190 or 1.90, it is recognized under the Code of Ethics that the public interest must be the prime concern of a public official. And that under subsection 3, officials and employees shall not exceed their authority. It is based on this, on the motion that was presented and the discussion, that these are the provisions that of the ethics code that are part of this process that we have the limited jurisdiction to review. So we have a motion before the board for a finding of a violation of the Code of Ethics based on those findings and those conclusions. And excuse me, I don't know if we had a second.
We did not.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Are there any additions, corrections, or modifications to those findings of fact or the conclusions that I read? None?
None.
So we have a motion and a second to the finding of probable cause that a violation of the ethics code occurred based on those findings and those conclusions. All in favor of that motion on the basis of those findings and conclusions signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I think just for the record, let's take a roll call vote. So state your name and your vote.
Mark Olson, aye.
Don Fuller, aye.
William Vandecastle, aye.
William Galvin, aye.
Since the vote was unanimous of the 4 members present, it does meet the requirements of section 8 point, find it real quickly, 8 point E, sub E of the code, which requires a 4/5 vote of the entire membership. So in that case, we have 4 of the 5 members voting aye to the motion. Anything further?
We should make a motion to advance this to the city council.
So, just for reference, the code provides that this, if there's been a finding of probable cause, the option before us is to refer to the city attorney, to the district attorney, or to the common council for appropriate action. Is that your motion to refer it to the common
I would
council?
make a motion to refer this issue now to the common council.
I'll
Second.
second that.
So we have a motion and a second to refer this to the common council. All in favor, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then, Ms. Chavez, we obviously don't have this in writing yet, so what's the next step for this?
Our office will prepare the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the written statements based on what was decided tonight. We will present those to you at your next meeting, and once those are formally adopted, they will be referred to the common council.
Right. So we will have an opportunity to review a written format of this.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a date for our next meeting yet?
We can do that now.
Very good. How much time does your office need to prepare this?
We need about 2 weeks.
All right, so we are looking at probably the last week of June. And we have 4th of July to deal with in there, so
27th, 28th, 29th, 30th.
how do those days work for me?
Not me.
Not you?
You're gonna have to go past the 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have the entire week of the 5th open, or the 4th, after the 4th.
I'm open.
Yeah.
Yep,
I believe I
works.
am.
Should we say Tuesday, the 5th?
Okay.
And the only other reason I'm asking, how does that correspond with the council meetings? Because it's got to go back to council then, right?
It does, council meeting is gonna be the
It's
fourth.
gonna be the third, I think the third Tuesday of
It'll be
July.
the 19th.
Then that works perfectly fine.
Okay. So 5th, 6th, 7th, what's your pleasure? 5th?
Sure.
Tuesday the 5th?
Mhm.
All right. 6 o'clock or 5:30?
Anytime.
What works?
5:30 is okay.
5:30 is
for me.
fine.
Okay, 5:30 on the 5th. We will meet to review and act on the final written version of this. And it's my assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Chavez, that we will get a written draft of this before that meeting so we can review it. And then essentially we'll be meeting to discuss any edits, changes, or whatever. Hopefully there won't be any, but that's what we'll deal with.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything further?
Motion to adjourn?
Did we have a second
Yes.
thing to
Um,
address today?
Did we vote on sending it to the council?
Yep.
We did.
We did?
Okay.
Yes.
There's nothing else on the
We did,
agenda?
we didn't
No,
take it.
nothing else on the agenda.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all very much for your patience.
These two-
Yes.
I apologize.